Apple just announced brand new M4 iPad Pros, and if you're thinking about getting a new one, upgrading from whatever older model you already have, we're going to go over all of the major differences and features in these new iPads. So let's start with the displays because this is a pretty massive overhaul. Now, Apple is using two OLED displays stacked on top of each other, which is a new thing that Apple's calling tandem OLED. And they had to do this in order to get these displays to be pretty bright. So previous models, we were at 600 nits of brightness for SDR content. These new ones are sustained at 1,000 and can reach all the way up to 1,600 for peak HDR brightness. And so these displays should offer deeper blacks, greater contrast, and more detail in the shadows and low light. Now, both models this year will support OLED. So last time with the M2, the 11-inch didn't get the mini LED display, only the 12.9-inch model. This year, both 11 and 13 will get these brand new OLED displays, so you don't have to sacrifice the display quality for the smaller form factor, which is a win for everybody because I've been kind of doing that lately, and I might go with the 11-inch. I'm not totally sure yet. Apple's also bringing its nano texture display on down to the iPad for the first time, and the only way you can get that though is if you order the 1 or 2 terabyte model for some reason. And also in some early hands-on videos, we saw that it doesn't actually go over the bezel, and I think this is because of the camera and Face ID, so it only goes over the actual display part, and then the bezels do not have it. It looks a little strange, but yeah, if you want less reflections for your iPad, you can get that. So if you're somebody who's taking it around for work, outdoors, maybe real estate, and you're constantly battling the sun and you don't want, this will be a good option for you. Now, I know some of you out there might not believe me when you look at it at first, but this is a pretty big redesign for the new iPad, and it's mostly because it's incredibly thin. In fact, it is the thinnest product that Apple has ever released. If you put it up against the iPod Nano, the 13-inch model is 5.1 millimeters, but it's the thinnest product unless you count the polishing cloth. But yeah, this is the thinnest product that Apple's ever come out with. It's kind of remarkable that this large 13-inch iPad is this thin, and it's incredibly light as well. And so if you are someone who's carrying it around, again, you want something super portable, these are gonna be lighter than ever, and so that should be a bonus for you. Now, both M4 iPad Pros are also a lot lighter than its previous models, and so that's going to be really good for portability as well. Now, the biggest changes on the inside comes with the M4 chip. Apple completely skipped the M3 and made a new version for the iPad for its AI capabilities, and so we should be seeing more AI features with iPadOS 18. Apple did show off one very specific feature with Final Cut Pro, where with just one tap you can actually isolate the subject from the background on a 4K video. Of course, users can expect to see 4 times more performance capabilities than the M2. Obviously, the older you get with the other models, the more performance gains you're going to get. There's actually a 9 or 10 core CPU option depending on which storage model you get. Again, if you want the faster M4 chip spec, you're gonna have to get the 1 or 2 terabyte model. I'm not entirely sure why, but that's just the rules with nano texture and this faster M4 processor. Now, in terms of the camera here on the back, Apple actually removed its ultra-wide camera, so you don't have that anymore. But you do get 4K 60 ProRes video if you wanted to take that on your iPad, which is nice. But yeah, you're not getting that camera. And so if you were somebody who used that camera a lot, then this might not be the upgrade for you. Another thing is Apple removed the SIM card slot. That's not that weird because Apple did that on the iPhone 15 and the iPhone 14 and introduced eSIM. And so you'll have eSIM for this if you want to get cellular data. But the other weird thing is that it's been limited to sub-6 5G instead of sub-6 and millimeter wave, so you're only getting sub-6. Another major difference that I am super on board with is Apple moved the camera over to the landscape edge. So basically, if you're docking it on the keyboard, you don't have to look over to the left side anymore. It's no longer in that portrait orientation, it's at the top when it's in landscape, and that's huge. It still has Face ID, and you still get center stage and all of that with this camera, which is great, and it's just in a more natural position. It looks like you're actually looking at the person, and so your FaceTime calls won't be weird anymore. Another big difference for the iPad Pro is actually the accessories. The accessories are only for the iPad Pros, unless you're getting the Apple Pencil Pro. That does work with the new iPad Air that Apple just announced, but it won't work with the M2 iPad Pro, so you have to upgrade if you want to take advantage of the new Magic Keyboard and the Apple Pencil Pro. Now, I'll start with the Magic Keyboard because I do love that accessory. I use it all the time. It looks a lot like the previous model, when you open it up and everything, you get that side profile, kind of have that, awesome floating design. And then the bottom portion where the keyboard is at is made up of aluminum. So it's a lot more sleek and MacBook-like. And then the best thing is you get a function row so that you can adjust the brightness of your iPad without having to go into Control Center, which is a huge win. And also the trackpad is a lot larger, which the last model, just super small and not a good trackpad. I haven't tested this one yet, we will very soon, but from what I can tell, it looks to be a major improvement. And then with the Apple Pencil Pro, it actually has been redesigned on the inside to have some new capabilities. So there's a haptic engine, so you can get haptic feedback whenever you're moving, let's say, an object around in Procreate. You're gonna get that haptic feedback so you have that precision and you'll know where things are on your canvas. And then you can do barrel rolls. This is huge for graphic designers and people who really use their iPad a lot for animations and drawings and whatnot. And there's also a squeeze gesture. So if you're inside of Procreate, one of the examples that Apple showed off, you can squeeze the Apple Pencil Pro and it'll bring up some options there that you can switch between, and you don't have to move around and go into settings. You could just do it all with just a squeeze gesture. Personally, I feel like this is a pretty substantial upgrade. I think the M4 chip is only going to lead to more AI-specific functions and tasks that's going to be hopefully coming later this year. And so you're kind of future-proofing yourself now by getting this. And then when all of those developers get their hands on what they can do with the M4 chip and their apps, I think it's only going to make that upgrade more worthy. And then with the OLED panels, it seems like a fantastic addition. Now, I did like the mini LED panels from before. They were not that bad, but I think these OLED panels are going to be a lot better if you're using this for work and consuming content specifically. And then, yeah, just the overall design and how much lighter and thinner it is, adding it with the Magic Keyboard and the Apple Pencil Pro, I think it's going to be a pretty big upgrade, especially if you're coming from something like the 2018 iPad Pros. This is going to feel huge. Now, the new iPad Pros start at $999 for the 11-inch and $1299 for the 13-inch. And again, you can go from 256 to 2 terabytes of internal storage. But of course, I would love to hear from you in the comments down below. What do you think about these new iPad Pros? Are you thinking about upgrading? Go ahead and let me know down in those comments. This has been Dan with MacRumors. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope to catch you around in the next video.